Good evening once again. This is Vincent Johnfred Balatero, and I'm going to talk about the Canterbury Tales by Geoffrey Chaucer. So the Canterbury Tales belongs to the literary era of the Renaissance period, wherein the Renaissance was a fervent period of European cultural, artistic, political, and economic rebirth following the Middle Ages, generally described as taking place from the 14th century to the 17th century. The Renaissance promoted the rediscovery of classical philosophy, literature, and art. So, for the author's background, Geoffrey Chaucer is considered one of the first great English poets, born around 1343. The son of a wine merchant, his family belonged to the third order or social class, but it was quite rich. And Chaucer could receive a good education and travels in Europe. He is the author of such works as The Parliament of Vowels, Triolus and Creside, and the Canterbury Tales. So, for the cultural historical influence in the literature, this tale is one of the most important works of the medieval literature, besides its poetic power and entertainment value. It notably its depiction of the different social classes of the 14th century. So this tales unveils the historical or cultural um, background of in the medieval period or in the medieval period in the 14th century, because it unveils or it shows the tales in this collection of tales shows the different social classes in that time. So for the major theme of this tale, the Canterbury Tales, is social satire. The medieval society was set through foundations: the nobility, the church, the peasantry. So Chaucer's satire targets all segments of the medieval social issues: um, immorality, and depraved heart. So the tales was also a depiction of the different social classes of the 14th century. So the themes here are notably the theme here is actually focuses on the medieval social issues, the human immorality, the depraved heart, and also the social classes in that time. So for the characterization, there are a lot of characters actually in the story. First is Chaucer. He was the he was the First is Chaucer. He was a pilgrim in the company, and he was the narrator. So this follows is the reeve, the cook, the man of law, the shipman, the prioress, the monk, the nun's priest, the physician, the wife path, the friar, the summoner, the clerk, the merchant, the squire, the franklin, the second nun, and the canon's yeoman, and the manciple. These characters that were mentioned here are the people who went for a ride to Canterbury. These people are the ones who presented their own tales about their realizations in life, about their experiences, or tales that represents themselves. So for the setting and mood of this story, Canterbury Tales takes place in England of the 14th century, and it was springtime, wherein 30 people from all social classes is gathering together for a walk. So the prevailing mood of this tale is obviously comedy. This book has the most prominent aspect of amazing magnitude of the range of its representation of medieval society. So it presented the medieval society in a more entertaining way. The tale aims at wholeness and presents the mixture of all the themes, conventions of contemporary medieval literature. So for the tone, Canterbury Tales incorporates an impressive range of attitudes towards life in literature. The tales are by turns satirical or like kind of sarcastic, elevated, pious or kind of religious, bawdy or some kind of rude, and comical, which is very entertaining. it's actually a mixture of tone because because the Canterbury Tales is actually a collection of different tales from different social class, from people from different social classes in the medieval period. That's why it has a lot of tone. So next is narrative device, story within the story. The Canterbury Tales is a collection of stories that is related to each other because the Canterbury Tales is actually a whole story. But in that particular whole story, there are also specific stories inside it, in which the stories that was told by the people from the different social classes who is writing to Canterbury. So the summary of the plot. Every tale in the Canterbury Tales contains its own structure of introduction, rising action, climax, falling action, and resolution, which often cautionary lesson or moral. So in the overall story, within which all other stories emerge, the introduction well introduces Chaucer, Bailey, and the pilgrims who meet at the Tabard Inn en route Canterbury Cathedral. So during the rising action, while writing the Canterbury, the pilgrims have a storytelling competition. So, so as they ride, the characters takes turn telling their tales, many of which represent them. As what I've said, the tales that were told by the riders was a representation of themselves or stories based on their experience and other things like that. The knight tells the first tale. The miller interrupts with the next one and so on. The follow the What follows are stories, each prologue scenes and conversations, as well as introduction of character development and judgment for the stories themselves. So, then, the stories come from Reeve, as what I've said earlier, the Reeve, the cook, the man of law, the shipman, the prioress, the Chaucer's own tale of Sir Topaz and Melby, the monk, the nun-priest, the physician, the wife of Bath, the friar, the summoner, the clerk, the merchant, the sick, the squire, the franklin, the second nun, the canyon's yeoman, and the manciple. So the stories that I saw the characters I mentioned earlier was the riders who was riding towards Canterbury. The stories that they have told to one another are the stories based on their experience or the stories that represents themselves. So lastly, the journey's climax sees the person give sermon and during the following action, near Canterbury, the person completes the sermon, one that speaks to Christian values, salvations, and offers remedies for the sins have played out in the various tales throughout the journey. So in the resolution, Chaucer prays for forgiveness for his less holy writings. He offers an apology for the less moral moments in the storytelling journey, and he includes a list of his own works and his hope for salvation as a kind of final legacy. So, the moral, Chaucer, who was the narrator, was the one. So basically, before I dive into the moral, the story was actually kind of more on like focuses or has a big emphasis on the religion or being religious. So here in the moral, Chaucer, the character that he was a character that has less moral moments, and also he was um, the kind of writer that creates less holy writings. So he was actually the narrator, but at the same time, his personality is kind of different from all the characters that was mentioned. So Chaucer provides the moral lessons not only in the main story but also the tales recounted by the pilgrims. Some of the lessons that he shown or some of the lessons that he provided were love conquers all, lust only gets you in trouble, religion and morality is virtues, and honor and honesty is valued. So this morals that he have realized, or he have that he have encountered or conquered, was based on the stories that he have heard from the people he rode together with towards Canterbury, from in which these people comes from the different social classes. So that's all, and this is Vincent Johnfred Balatero, and thank you for listening.